Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 19th, and right now we're looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. We got the Hawaiian Islands to the bottom left. We got the state of Washington and Oregon where I'm circling. You can see the atmospheric river continuing to pour into portions of Vancouver Island where some excessive flooding, excessive precipitation has been falling here over the last couple of days, and we're starting to get that precipitation into the Cascades of Washington, the Olympic Mountains. Particular cloud shows across the Olympic Mountains and the Cascades as well. Not a lot of that precipitation has made its way down into the central Puget Sound or Portland, for example, but we are going to get the frontal system that moves through their area tomorrow. And this is that low pressure that's developing for tomorrow that could bring some windy conditions here across the Pacific Northwest. Just the initial stages of the organization of that system right there where I'm circling across the Pacific Ocean. That's going to track right across a sweet spot here for some windy conditions. It's a good thing this low should be on the weaker side because it could be bad enough as it is. Getting some gusts for Seattle area, for example, up over 40 miles per hour. We're going to look at that in some detail. And then we'll look off towards next week where we've just got models showing the potential for another strong system moving across Pacific Northwest. I'll show you what that's all about as well here in a moment. This is looking at the Doppler radar with the infrared satellite imagery overlaid. Look at some of the lenticular cloud activity off the Cascades. Just amazing. It was an amazing show off the Olympics this morning as well. And you can see the precipitation just continuing to move across portions of Vancouver Island, the Olympic Mountains of Washington, and the North Cascades. And look at the wave action there across the North Cascades. Just amazing out there. Send me some pictures if you got them. I may be heading out there across some of the Cascades to collect some of this because it's probably going to be going on for a lot of the day today. Now, I'm on Blue Sky now. Just so you guys know, this app is being downloaded more than X is right now, and the weather community has largely moved over to Blue Sky. It's like Twitter was in the early stages, and you're not constantly spammed with all kinds of political ads and stuff like that, and porn bots and all that nasty stuff that you have to deal with on X. And it seems like the conversation is much more substantial. So check me out, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. You can see at seattleweatherguy.bsky.social. So check that out. Now take a look at Seattle. 53 degrees yesterday. Pretty chilly day there. We averaged 60 degrees this time of year. We actually turned the heat on for the first time of the season here at my house. 700ths of an inch of rain. We're just piddly amounts here for Seattle the last few days, and not a lot incoming here, especially versus the Olympic Mountains and the North Cascades and Vancouver Island, where there's been some flooding concerns with all this precipitation. You can see the hydraulic outlook that does exist. We're still under this wind advisory here. I believe this is going on into about 2 p.m. this afternoon, but we're probably going to have some wind advisories kick up again potentially as we go through the day tomorrow, and I'll show you more on that here in a minute. But so I selected this station right near Tofino on Vancouver Island. If I scroll out, you can kind of see it. There's a Seattle Metro, Washington Coast, there's Vancouver, BC. And if you take a look at that, the Tempest there recorded 5.03 inches of rain yesterday, almost an inch today. You can see the wind updating every few seconds. Highly recommend this weather station. You can do much worse for the price. And if you want to save 10% off, click on that link down below to do so. Now look at some of the wind speeds. Everett this morning was gusting to 62 miles per hour. Those would be some severe wind gusts, very damaging. You can see Whidbey Island was gusting fairly high as well. Bellingham, I think, was hitting 45 yesterday. You can see some higher gusts across the region. And again, tomorrow, another chance for some very windy conditions here across the area. And look at some of the precipitation amounts across Vancouver Island. Some places I heard were in excess of 9 or 10 inches. And you can see already up over 3 for many areas of the Washington Coast, the Olympic Mountains, the North Cascades getting it. But look at Seattle, these tiny amounts. Tacoma, Portland down here. You haven't seen much precipitation at all. A little bit more across some of the Cascade areas. And yeah, we will have that frontal system moving through, but it's nothing like the atmospheric river that's just been absolutely pounding portions off to the north and west of the Seattle Metro. Now we're looking at a wider view, and we've got the Hawaiian Islands at the bottom left. I'm showing the Canadian model on the left versus the American model at GFS on the right. We're looking at 10-meter wind speed. So you can see the atmospheric river and kind of the frontal boundary that's been hanging out on Vancouver Island and Western Washington. But as I showed you on the infrared satellite imagery or the mid-level water vapor loop, I want you to pay attention out here. This is our next system getting organized, and you can see it start to develop here and bring its windy system with it here across Pacific Northwest. You can also see it on the right on the GFS. So that is Sunday's system right there. And then we scroll off into the future a little bit further, and we drop some colder air out across Pacific Ocean here. This is going to create a cutoff low, and then you can see the next system start to develop here in both the GFS and the Canadian model here on the left, and we put that into motion, and then another polar lobe is going to swing by and try to bring this system and drag it up across Pacific Northwest. We could have a windstorm with this. We have some potential for it. As you can see, this system really move up, and again, this is kind of a sweet spot here for windstorm potential here across Pacific Northwest. As you can see, that next polar lobe taking a shape here across the Gulf of Alaska, also a tropical system further to the south. But the models have kind of been all over the place with this, but they continually show the potential for this system. And this is off in through, we're talking about Thursday, Friday of next week. So we still have plenty of time to deal with that. Make sure to check back daily, and we'll continue to go over that potential. Now, taking a look at the North American model, I want to show you the system here. So you can see we're dealing with atmospheric river. The pressure gradient starts to relax as we go through this afternoon and tonight. But then you see the development of this next system right here. And it's a good thing this low is not going to be down towards 990 or something, but in casting an even more powerful gradient, because that is really the sweet spot to bring some gusty winds to the Seattle Metro, Everett again, and even down across the Washington coast and some of the higher terrain, and even southwest BC, as that low tracks right over the area here and then moves across British Columbia, then out across the Rocky Mountains before we turn our eyes back to the Pacific Ocean. So 80-meter wind speed. Here's the North American model. We're going to time this out a little bit. You can see still the gusty winds ongoing late morning hours, but should be relaxing as we go through this afternoon for the northern interior. It's been windy for quite a while, and you can see that frontal boundary right off the Washington coast. You see the north winds versus the southwest winds just kind of hanging out here. And then on that baroclinic boundary, we're going to develop this next, minor windstorm here, moving up towards the Washington coastline. You can see these gusty winds all the way up towards Vancouver Island. And again, it's going to pick up tomorrow across the northwest interior, possibly for the Seattle Metro, down towards Tacoma, maybe even Olympia as well. The Cascades, as that frontal system finally kicks through the area shown there. Now, I want to show the 10-meter max wind gust as well, because you can see there are some gusty winds out there. I don't know if we hit 37 at Seattle, but we're going to scroll through and you can see the next system roll in here. And you can see the North American model calling for 40 for Seattle, higher gust, Washington coast, northwest interior. Again, tomorrow, some of the Cascades as well. Kind of leaving out the Willamette Valley, and some of the Oregon coast may get a bit blustery as well, but the bigger wind should be a bit further north. Now, taking a look at a wider view of things, we got the European on the left. This is hot off the presses, the 12Z run. The GFS is on the 12Z also on the right. Put this into motion, and here we go with Sunday system. Again, kind of that late breaking wave here. We got to kind of cross our fingers that this doesn't come in a little bit deeper, because that is a sweet spot for windstorm potential here across Pacific Northwest. That moves through tomorrow, and then we start to watch our next system out here. And the models, the European actually backed off a bit on this system last night, but it's showing the potential for this again. You really got to watch out, because as these systems come up like that, it can bring a strong pressure rise in the surface low if it tracks just right, like what the GFS is showing. That is not good here, folks, for windstorm potential. That is a pretty powerful pressure gradient and a strong pressure rise there. And of course, once the models work out the details on that, that low could easily be closer to 990 or 985 moving across the area. So that's what we're watching for next week. And then you can see things might continue to be active as we go on in towards the next weekend and the following week here, as well as the GFS keeps the troughing back out over the Pacific, and the differences start to emerge between the European and the GFS. So if we look at the Canadian model as well, so we looked at the wind speed at 10 knots here, but I'm going to show you here the late breaking wave. Good model agreement on that developing tomorrow. So watch out if you got church or you got your kids' soccer games or whatever you're doing out there tomorrow. Have that in the back of your mind that it's going to get windy as we go through the morning and possibly early afternoon hours through the later afternoon period. And then the next system develops here, and this is trouble here on the 12Z European. Look at that pressure gradient up the Oregon coast through the Puget Sound, probably a bent back occlusion, very powerful pressure rise, and that would bring strong winds across the area. So we got to really watch that one, and it's a good thing we have several days to watch that. And as we scroll up through the extended forecast, maybe some additional systems after that, who knows, and take a look at that tropical system kind of drifting around the Northeast Pacific here. So taking a look at the European artificial intelligence. This is last night here. I'm just bombarding you guys with all this data. There goes Sunday's system across the region. And look what yesterday's 06Z artificial intelligence European showed, because the 12Z is just now starting to run. I don't have that data just yet, but you can see that is trouble, folks. That low pressure system coming up the coast like that, rapid pressure rise, strong pressure gradient, would be windstorm potential here across the region. So that's what we're watching, kind of still in fantasy land right now, but we're gaining some confidence here that we could be in for a windy period. Now, precipitation totals, you can clearly see the atmospheric river. We're comparing the GFS on the right versus the European on the left. Put that into motion, and you see not too much for Seattle, of course, versus places off to the north and west. And then eventually that front swings through tomorrow. But then as we scroll off in towards the end of next week, you can see precipitation again returning across the area. Active weather continuing as we go through the later portion of October. Check out some of these amounts, almost up towards 3 inches for Seattle. And again, we'll be breaking down those systems day by day as we go. Also, we got some nice wave action on the coastline here this morning, and you can see that continuing on through this afternoon. It weakens a little bit here by Sunday morning, but quickly as that system rolls in tomorrow, we're going to get a bump in that wave activity. And then, of course, we'll be watching next week as that next storm system is out here. And again, brings some larger wave action here into the Pacific Northwest and potentially, some more active weather as we go through the end of the month. So, yeah, we're kicking off fall. We're doing it right here. We've got some classic fall stuff. We got winds, precipitation, and some big waves out there. So this is the European 12Z. This is the Ensemble memory. It shows the member-wise minimum mean low sea level pressure. There goes tomorrow's system, but I do want to kind of show you this. The ensembles are still fairly all over the place, but you can see they do throw this system, and that would be big trouble here at 982 millibar low right off the Washington coast, moving up there, and you can see how these track kind of across western Washington. So that's what we'll be watching. Fantasy forecast fun is in full effect. So looking at the European Ensemble, this is for today. You can kind of see the gusty winds out there. But as we go through Sunday, look at the control run on last night's European model there, 45 miles per hour. That would cause some issues with leaves on trees, nuisance power outages, and a couple of the ensembles have towards 50. But pretty good model agreement here for some 40 mile per hour gusts across the Seattle metro. That will cause some nuisance power outages, no doubt. And this does not go out far enough yet here on the 06Z. The 12Z will, however, and in fact, let me hit refresh to see if the 12Z is in yet. It is not. So I was hoping it would be updated, probably coming out in the next half an hour to an hour or so. And looking at Bellingham here, the Sunday system, 45 miles per hour, but some of the ensembles do have higher packed gusts in there, and you can see the blustery and windy conditions ongoing right now. Here we go with Quileute, Washington coast, mid 40s. That'll get your attention, possibly some higher gusts. We'll see. We'll revisit that again very early tomorrow morning. Here's Hoquiam, right on the Washington coast, and you can see a pretty good agreement, 40 miles per hour coming in. Whidbey Island, another windy period as we go through tomorrow. The control run calling 47 and some of the higher ensembles. We'll look at the GFS here as well. This is the 12Z Ensemble member-wise minimum. You can see tomorrow's system, and then we look off into the extended forecast, and we look at that fantasy windstorm out here. You can see it moving up, and you can see some of these deeper lows trying to move towards the Pacific Northwest. So anyway, yeah, we'll just continue to break that down day by day. Now, looking at 500 millibar temperature, I want to show you what's going on here. So we got that baroclinic boundary. It was driving that atmospheric river, and there's Sunday's wave moving up here across the region. And then notice how we drop this cold air off the coastline. Something interesting that this will do is also tap some subtropical moisture. So we'll have a pretty decent pressure gradient. And that's why if this polar lobe lines up with that subtropical moisture just right, it could bring that strong windstorm up across the region. As you can see, that finally traversed through the area as we go through next weekend. Now we're going to take a look at that tropical moisture in the form of precipitable water anomaly. We'll scroll through here. Here goes Sunday's system first, and then that cutoff low develops, and look at this tap some of that subtropical moisture here and bring it back up. And if that polar lobe meets up with it just right and brings that across the region, you could be in for a windstorm. It's still fantasy right now here, but as you can tell, I like getting excited about these things. So fully nerding out on this meteorology, the meteorology aspect of what could be coming next week. Here's the 6 to 10 day. You can kind of see virtually the entire lower 48 except the Pacific Northwest is below normal. Here's the 6 to 10 day above average precipitation. Now we're looking out towards November 1st. You can see again below normal and above normal precipitation. So maybe we'll keep that active weather going for you. Anyway, sorry to get the video out here late today. I had a Sun soccer game out there. Watching the lenticular cloud, I could see it there from the field, and I'll probably be going out there here in a few hours to try to get that. Maybe I'll get lucky and get kind of a sunset show, or maybe I'll drop a bit further south down towards Mount Adams if the clouds continue to come in. But anyway, hope you guys are liking these videos. Click like and subscribe. Again, check me out on Blue Sky. Now that's where my updates will be from here on out, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow at the latest.